now my task is to be a discussion partner of Lilach, which was a kind of something which happened automatically because she asked me to visit the rehearsals and
be my mentor. She don't want to say it.
Yes, somehow it's so official, being a mentor, but be a discussion partner.
Yes. Thinking partner.
Maybe it would be great if you could introduce the process.
Yeah.
Not just here what you made with your partners, because we had I introduced the partners, Barbie and Emesha, who you have seen dancing, and Zsolt behind the desk, and who is not here, missing is István, because he has a performance at 7 today in another venue, but he was the creative help of this
binocular lenses.
Yes.
Whatever.
So can you introduce a little bit the process you are researching with, or?
Yeah. So I'm researching around the image, like the question of image, and especially image in the female body, how constantly the female body kind of project from society, from male dominance, from etc., and project sexuality on it, and how a lot of times it's not even something that we want, or I said myself I want, but somehow my action can be translated as something this or that. So, and I thought a lot about how it's a matter of context, and how by changing the context or where the position happened to be, so it can change also the projection of other people. And I think now maybe I will, because I don't know if, what do you think about the materials, like where do you recognize where the materials came from?
You mean the movement?
The movement, yeah, the movement materials. Did you recognize where it came from, or something like this? No. Just curiosity.
Maybe we can open the discussion if you had any idea about the movement material and how it was organized. If you had any images in your head came up.
Yeah.
Well, they reminded me some sexual activities, but I also read your
chocolate for him.
description.
Julius cheating.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, right.
Anybody outside L1?
Yeah.
I mean, for me it came mostly to the end, when they were doing the same position over there. For me it was really like not sexual at all. But I mean, it's my personal kind of view on it. And if I can say more, because there was this like change the point of view or change the perspective. What was the exact term?
And please change your perspective.
Yeah, it was really interesting for me that you can change the perspective moving in the space or changing the glasses, but how to change perspective when you're on the same place. And I don't know if also dancers were doing that, or if you work with that, change the perspective while you're there. That came to me during that, like you're doing that, what's the perspective on it if you're in the same movement? So I get that, and
maybe I will also like elaborate a bit about the instruction, like why they came, and I think like constantly we are choreographed by the society, how to stand, what to do, how we need to engage in certain things, especially in New York and United States. I experienced it lately when I wanted to kind of write my visas and stuff. So like a lot of time governments, society really govern our bodies. And somehow, like, we have the freedom to resist that. So what's happened when the instruction kind of almost impossible to follow, and where we are finding our own volition to go and not to not to obey to those instructions that happen to be around us, and feel fine with that, and not like, oh, but I'm feeling wrong. Yeah, so this is also something that I was thinking about, like, and yeah, how kind of to bring the visibility of those actions that happen constantly, but also how to not manifest in a violent way the same thing itself. So how to create this open window to see these things, but now allowing to resist those, like in the conditions, place, and safe, let's call it, place.
Can I ask Emesha and Barbie, why did you decide to start and stay with the process?
Like for me, I'm also in my personal work. I like to work with the objectification, mainly the female body, of the objectification of the female body. So that was the starting point where I decided I really would like to participate, and then it was very complex work. I felt that Lilach is constantly bringing some new ideas in, so it was very interesting work.
Yeah, I can join. It was really nice to work together, and for me, first was, I think, the subject. Like, I think it's important to talk about these things. Maybe just ask questions, but we don't need to solve this problem. We can't really, especially not in like such a short time. But I like this the subject and combination of the work, like to bring this idea of the viewpoint and how other people are viewing us, and trying to move the audience as well. So it was for me like the whole actually just somehow came together, and especially when we started to work with the material, it was really exciting. Yeah.
And do you have any sign to say something? Okay.
Yes, I felt quite curious about the instructions, because I realized that I am the kind of person that when somebody says do that, I immediately go like, no. Why? Just because you want it? Like, it's like eat the fruit, and I'm like, no. Even if I want it, but then when it was like change the perspective, then I went to go back to eat fruit. So this was one thing I noticed, and then the other, what is crucial that the audio said, as long, like, change the perspective as long as you are respectful. That's what you said in the beginning, or was it the audio? Yeah. Yes, and this is a very crucial term, because I immediately associated like this sexual and pornography and this kind of positions, and I actually didn't want to look at you, because I felt like no. But then actually I was interested in looking at the people that are looking at you. But then I was like, no, it would be disrespectful, you know, if you stare at them and I just stare at you like this. It would be disrespectful, because you're not a performer. I don't know, maybe you are, but but you're not a performer in this performance. So I would really go into your comfort zone if I stop you. And this is a society problem also that I have a lot, that I think I can break the rules, I can change things, but it will make me be somehow disrespectful to somebody else in the same way somehow, or in a different way, but you know, that I do something that they don't like or they don't feel comfortable anymore.
And was it this moment when you went back to eat the fruit, or?
No, it was before. It was like, don't eat the fruit. No, eat the fruit, eat the fruit, eat the fruit. Change the perspective, and I was like, oh, now I eat the fruit. But then it was later when there was like this circle situation.
I just thought that when you realized this fact that you were witnessing somebody else, watching the dancers,
it was later.
It was later.
Yeah. Then I tried to change my perspective, but so I looked out of the window and to the ceiling because I didn't want to look at you. And I looked at other people, but then I realized, okay, if I just stare at you now, and you might be disrespectful or something.
First thing, number one, now our communication is in English. I just want to say that. I don't speak Hungarian. How many people speak Hungarian here? So majority in here is a Hungarian languages. I don't have any opinion, just I want to say that. Number two, prospected. So my prospected, I just came in Budapest 3 days ago. Come from New York, Berlin, Budapest. I'm going back in Berlin tomorrow. So my prospective is, you know, buildings, landscapes, how I get here, metro number 1, that's correct? Yes. So my perspective is a very detailed. And I think, I don't know what's your name?
Saskia.
Saskia. Maybe I tried to pass watermelon? No, I didn't.
Oh, you asked me if I wanted.
No, I didn't pass to you. No, anyway. So, you know, perspective is interesting angle, but the I just want to share my perspective is that, you know, maybe I look at each one with the, oh, they are Hungarian or not Hungarian? The one with a, you know, perspective, and I am very curious about history of the Hungary, what's going on now. And I have been to so many kind of a conversation, and I say thank you, my perspective, and to come here. And so that's about my perspective. I just want to share. I think the world is a very, very kind of intense now, including these countries, probably. And then same as New York, you know, we have a president, and very, very intense. So any of the perspective, the artwork is incredible, very political now. I just want to say that.
Yeah, I wanted to say that actually the instructions are very interesting because it's, you know, certainly it creates, like I guess that's part of the point, that it creates a contradiction somehow in itself, because at the beginning, like you are encouraged to choose, like to choose whichever fruit you want, and then you are encouraged to really make your choice and then also to taste it, and so in like to form your own opinion about the experience and to form your real opinion. But then at the same time it becomes an instruction. So there's this paradoxical thing that okay, it's your choice, but you have, in a certain way, you have to do it. So I found it interesting that it's kind of against imposing on something on people, so like, or giving the freedom for people, but also at the same time, also like freedom could be something like which is imposed on us. So like that was an interesting contrast, and also with their behavior, how they accelerated, which then takes away the real experience after a while, obviously. So this was kind of interesting.
Did you feel the permission to not do, like to resist the instruction, to resist a certain point of view? Like I'm asking, like this is a working process, so it's not the final thing. So I'm curious if, like you mentioned that we started and then immediately you decided I don't want to like kind of participate. But did you feel the condition that we set for you kind of allowing it to happen and allow this contradiction and recognize that this is something that I have the permission now really to choose what I want to do and not I need to do this and this. So like this is an open, wide, I'm sorry, question. Like how did you feel? Like
I felt that I cannot do it if I do not want, of course. But then I thought, okay, I'm here as the audience and I should also respect your work. And maybe, I don't know, maybe it really changed something for me if I experienced it from different place or with the glasses. So I tried also that. So I didn't feel really like push, do it or not do it, or really. I was like, yeah, let's try it. So it was for me, like I felt kind of relaxed and just try to experiment and play. What do you offer me? You offered me something, and as me, with my experience, my background, I can do with it what I want.
I feel that I had the chance not to change my position, but I also felt that even if I didn't want to change, it would still change anyway, because there's a lot of people changing, and I just feel I'm actually going through a change in my life now, and I feel I didn't want to have a different perspective, but I still have it. So it's not just me, it's everybody else around me, them and everybody else who decided not to move or move.
I'm just trying to explain. So that was quite interesting when the first time I heard change perspective, I didn't even think, and I was in motion. Like I was in motion of going from somewhere to somewhere, and I wondered how maybe one of the first acts actually affected my way of finding myself moving when like changing my perspective or position. And I'm just thinking of like seeing the performers literally doing what the words were saying, like the action had, like I heard the action and then the movement was the same. So I'm just wondering if that kind of very gently programmed me to the action of actually finding myself, and later on I found out of no, I don't have to move, but it was, I'm just thinking about that it's quite interesting maybe how these things are affecting of how we are actually in this space, and at that moment I'm also like, maybe my perspective is blurred, I mean my role is blurred between an audience member and the performer. I'm just wondering, you know, I became like, you know, but I'm just thinking about this, I don't know. Quite interesting, actually.
For me, I didn't really want to eat the fruit because it was really connected to the objectification and pushing, and yeah, and I wanted to eat the fruit at the moment. So this, I think, if you wanted to go for this, it worked for me.
Yeah. Like the whole like choosing the fruits and like the female body, there are a lot of printer like paintings showing with the fruit like as a, I don't know, this is something that it's really clear image in my culture, my opinion, my way of looking at it. So Yeah. Do you think it's actually doing the opposite? Instead of resisting, it's manifesting? Because you mentioned that you didn't want to look at the material. So my question is, you think through using the maybe sexual position, I'm manifesting kind of object, okay, whatever, yes, of the performer, female body?
Can you ask again this question?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Precisely.
So I'm asking if through the movement materials of the sexual position, I was manifesting what I tried to avoid, to be the female, that objectification. Thank you, of the female body.
No, because I mean, for me, I have this feeling that by in a certain way depersonalizing and desexualizing, you desexualize the sexualized movements. So like the position. So I didn't feel that they are objectified because they, you know, they seemed real, like they did it on their own. And the context was like what you mentioned, I think before, that the context was different. So I felt that I have the chance to see it in this way or in that way. Like there was a freedom somehow inside of the experience. So it was not a compelling idea. Like if it, you know, like many times, of course, this is a stereotype, so that we see it in films and in many kinds of performances, you know, like when the bodies are sexualized. But it can be compelling. It depends on the context and depends on probably many factors. This was not like that. So I could choose. I had the feeling that I could choose, like if I can look at it that way or a different way. So like even from the movements. So in that sense, to change perspective, I wouldn't really need the tools.
Yes. Thank you.
I still, my perspective, we are kind of agree. Here's Hungary I came in, and Budapest. Yes, I'm saying, I'm just organize what I like to say. So we are now speaking English. And who is a player, who is an observer? So it's all we are kind of agreement to have this conversation English, and no translation from Hungarian to English, English to Hungarian. Can I ask that perspective why?
Yeah, maybe I can answer because I'm the organizer.
Okay, sure. Thank you. And I'm still kind of I'm not, the opinion, but I think, sometimes, speaking English, these kind of relationships is dangerous sometimes,
Yeah.
So then I'm just saying. So then I actually, before I want to stop, who is not to understand the Hungarian here? No, sorry, English.
Ki az, aki egyáltalán nem beszél angolul?
So all the audiences, you handable to understand the two languages. Okay, yeah. Just want to.
Yesterday, after the performance of Siporka, our resident artist, we moderated the discussion in Hungarian because there were more people in the audience who we knew they don't speak English. And we also knew that for the artist it was also easier as she is a Hungarian artist. But now, as we have seen that lots of people are here with the knowledge of English, and of course the process is also to give some feedback to Lilach, which she can work further with. That's why we chose the English.
My mission sometimes to go to art is a revolution, and then the quote ahead of abstraction, statement. Even one or two people they don't understand the English. I think I do effort, to put in the translation. Just my question is, I'm not saying just my question. And thank you.
I totally agree with you that we don't need to centralize the English language like generally, and this is why we chose to speak also Hungarian. So I record them also speaking Hungarian. I think this was like Marta's suggestion, really generous one, because I want to understand what you're saying.
I'm not objecting, just I'm talking about the evidence. I'm not to disagree what you're doing. I'm just saying my mission,
I'm joining you and adding from my perspective.
And I live in New York, 42 years. So, I'm in the English societies, but I speak Japanese also. But I don't speak Hungarian. I just, so I just want to, just evidence you talking about, perspective. So I'm saying that my perspective to observe, in here. I just want to, it's nothing to conflict. I'm just saying evidence.
I was joining.
Thank you.
Can I say something about...
Mel was, and then Arthur first.
Can I say something about the objectification of performers? I think when your body and you're performing material for someone, there's an objectification there. It doesn't always have to be a sexualization, but there's still an objectification, there's still a barrier between performer audience. It's still, you're gathered here to watch me, I'm here to perform for you. There's an objectification level there. And I have to say that when Barbie and Emma Shea, they first started off, it felt really intimate, but it also felt like, I don't know if it's because I know about the process and I've been involved, but it also felt like we went into their space. So it was way more intimate and a bit more organic, but then when we got into here, and it's still very much a typical performance space, it's in the round, it may not be proscenium, but it's still in the round, and everyone kind of put themselves in the round. It felt a lot more objectifying because they were in the middle and then we were around, and it was like clear divide between performer and audience, and also watch my body, watch my body, watch my body, watch my body. So it wasn't a sexualization, but I still felt that objectification was there. So it's kind of interesting how the spaces and how over there it felt like they were in control. In here it felt like they were doing something that they've been told to do for a purpose, if that makes sense.
There was an interesting point with the audience and the performer, this barrier, because at some point I wasn't watching the actual movements. Maybe I agree with you. You were saying that I couldn't really look at it, but I kind of was intrigued by the forms that were happening, that were executed, sometimes even in sync. Sometimes flowing out together and flowing back together, and as well by the forms that I saw in this room with the lights that shine here through those windows. So I was actually very intrigued to change my perspective, aligned with my desire to move around in the room and have a different viewpoint. But at some point I felt that it wasn't in my pace. So there was, I don't know if there was a rhythm. I wasn't listening. If this instruction were coming regularly, yes, I thought so. So, but I just guessed. I really lost my feeling for time and frequency. So at some point, I just, like at first, I thought, oh, I have to move. But at some point, I felt stressed. So I just stayed in that position and moved as I desired. The only thing that I didn't do, what I wouldn't say I regret, but those arrows made me that I wouldn't move into the circle. So this is coming back to you. This was something that was bothering me. I would really have loved to sit maybe there in the middle, or on his table. I don't know. Yes. And funny was, sorry, I'm just, before I forget it, my first change of perspective was actually when I ate from the fruits. Because I tried, like there I fantasized about how it is if I was there eating those fruits and have to follow those instructions.
Or of course I ask as well. That we have learned, and also we could recognize that the movement materials are coming from the bedroom, so from sexual positions. And for me, the relation between fruit eating to sexuality is somehow very evident, and the relating thing is the joy, the enjoyment. And I just wanted to know what is your standing point in it, because in the first scenes, the fruit eating scenes, when we entered a bedroom kind of setting, because it was really intimate, as Melissa already mentioned, I had this feeling that you somehow underlined the joy that you have when you eat a fruit. So it was somehow, at the beginning, of course, then it becomes a very mechanic and instructed activity, but at the beginning it's something that you enjoy. And somehow when we entered this place, where we had to watch them performing the positions and the actual activity, then I couldn't witness any enjoyment in it for them, for the dancers. And I wanted to know whether it was on purpose, that there is a distinction between this, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So
here I imagine, it's I think less enjoying, like joy and things like feeling like those. But I wanted kind of with the phasing, like kind of to try to shake the image itself. So the task, like kind of here, was how we can possibly give other way, that if you're trying to shoot some photo and you have movement, so it's smear, so you cannot see it as clearly as it's supposed to be. So the idea of the phasing and this movement, it kind of to shake those restrictions that a lot of time we are operate inside and or according to. And so here it's for them, I guess, maybe we can ask you, how did you felt here, instead of me trying to imagine how you felt.
On one hand, I was really concentrated because there was a lot of material and a lot of directions and new things with the audience. But I like those moments when I can reach with the shake that, when we were talking about this, when I don't think anymore, I just, and those moments are in a kind of joy.
You don't need to if you don't want to. I guess like this is kind of my resistance of the image, how we can perform those sexual position and while phasing and kind of taking out of this, like imposing constantly of those things. Because I feel, and I will not see all of us, all the females, but I feel a lot of time that I need to choose carefully what I will wear. If I will wear this, so maybe some people interpret it like I welcoming some harassment. Of course, it's also depend on cultural thing and much broad like perspective, and I'm aware. But living in Jerusalem, like when you have Muslims and ultra-Orthodox and Orthodox, this is the kind of thing that you need to be aware what you're wearing. And I think generally, like if I'm walking in the street and some drunk men, I don't know, but this is exactly what I'm saying, that this is something that I have in mind when I'm dressing, when I'm the way that I'm walking, the way that I'm speaking, like everything is kind of to sometimes avoid an unpleasant meeting with people that can do some stuff that I don't want them to do. Yeah, so this is, sorry it was a bit long.
I found it interesting personally because when I started shaking, it became more sexualized for me. But I don't know if that's because British culture, we have ridiculous stuff like Carry On Camping and Benny Hill, and there's always women shaking themselves around for the titillation of men. And yeah, for me it had the opposite, where I could see, because I already know the material, but I could see the positions themselves, and they're ludicrous. There's nothing. They are quite ludicrous, out of context. They're ridiculous. But then when they started shaking, and then when they were breathing heavily, and they were getting way more physical, that's when it became more sexual for me. So it's interesting.
But isn't the thing that you're not trying to find things that show female bodies in a sexual way on stage? Why we see this enough. This is not something that needs to be reproduced. But the problem is, like, it happened to me yesterday, that I was talked to and gestured in a way that I don't want, because I was happy and I was walking freely, and I let my hair grow now. In the prospect, you'd still see a picture with short hair. Happens a lot less than. But the problem is that it's not that I'm moving in a sexual way. It's that I'm wearing a dress, or that I let my hair grow. This is the cut of freedom, Sometimes though,
it's not that I'm not like doing like this on stage on the street, and people go like, oh come on, come here.
Where did it happen?
You want to have a drink?
Did it happen here?
Yeah, but it happened like 4 days ago somewhere else, and 6 days ago somewhere else.
Sometimes I think
it's a common thing.
Sometimes I think if you're walking with confidence and you're walking with your head up and you're happy, people feel like they have to make a comment.
No, not people, men.
Yes.
Not people, men. And this is where I find the performance is not radical enough. Because this is you still can kind of act quite comfortably in the way that, in my opinion, you shouldn't be, because it's respect. Of course, in this case, if there's a performer going in the middle of the space doing something, of course it's not respectless to look at them. Of course not. But what would be the experience where it's maybe the performer would have to say, like, I'm just doing this for myself. I really don't want you to look at me. There's pictures on the wall. There's a lot of things in this space that you can have a look up. Please don't look at me. It makes me really uncomfortable. Look at something else, and then you can go like, and to respect things like this, because you just do things.
Maybe next time you should make a research together.
But then you have to ask the question: what's the point of having the performer in the first place? If it's going to be a case of no, don't look at me, it makes you feel uncomfortable, then I understand that it's contemporary. I understand that we're pushing boundaries, but also it's still, for all intents and purposes, a dance piece that people are going to watch and have some sort of reaction to. Maybe it will change the way that they think, maybe it will change their perspective, maybe it won't. But if it's going to be a case of having a performer say, no, don't look at me, it makes me uncomfortable, then...
it's not my piece, and I don't really care if you use a performer or not. So I'm just saying that I think it should be more radical in whatever direction, so that the content is more experienceable. Is that a word?
Experienceable. Let's make it a word.
Experienceable. When the piece will be made, final, I don't know if I can say something is made in the end. Where you want to put it?
In a gallery.
In a gallery.
Yeah, I imagine it. This was like a glimpse, but I imagine the whole space divided. So I was really enjoying, you said, the thing about the spaces, because it's never like this.
Yeah.
But because, it's presentation, so we can do. Yeah, but in gallery, and that the installation will live in the gallery, and then the performance happen and not happen, and the performers start from different spots and kind of has a linear way of walking through, but then it's kind of spread away and it's happened to be in the whole spaces. Yeah, so gallery.
Very interesting in the street.
Also, it can be, but I thought about it, and someone told me, yeah, but how you will prevent like passing by to not touch? How you will protect your performers? And it was a big like. I hope you felt it. It's really important for me that the people, like the dancers that perform in my pieces and generally, but will be, they will feel safe. They will feel that nothing can harm them. And this is why at the beginning I'm saying respectful for your surroundings. So it's surrounding other people, surrounding also dancers. Yeah.
No,
sorry.
Go. No, just I get the idea when you said, and maybe in gallery also you don't know. But it's
I totally I agree with you. I don't know, but it's easier to control the condition like around and divide the spaces in a way that I don't know. Maybe will be easier to control. Of course, I cannot control everything, but I kind of limited my options to that someone will harm them. So, sorry.
The streets, you could kind of control it if you had performers that would themselves go in and do such a thing that might happen. This would be very extreme, maybe for the audience. It would maybe shift the main point of that you want to make. I don't know, but it's funny because I experienced the shaking as totally something else. For me, it was more of a shaking that results out of trauma, or maybe out of an impression of a structuralized. That kind of makes that person shiver out of this oppression. So maybe that was because I was looking for a more radical thing. Like I would have wanted, the moment where I heard this breathing as well, for me it was a traumatic reaction. So maybe I even wanted more of that. Maybe I wanted more radicalization and a more radical approach to the topic itself.
Can I add something? Me and Saskia, just before we came here, we were kind of discussing this. And as you said, like, I think it's needed, like, to show to people, like, you can, like, I don't know if I understood well, like the performers would be able to take care of themselves if there would be something happening on the street. Like you would have that kind of performers who can...
No, I meant that the performer itself would go and start, for example, groping or attacking another performer.
Okay.
So that it would look like there would be someone who just passes by, but it is part of the performance. Just as an example to take control of that situation in an actually non-controllable area.
Sounds like a post-drug production.
Who wants to join?
I wonder how it would have been if Nomi and I had been able to do it as well, because I think that it was too maybe had an impact on the efficacy or how you're feeling watching it. I wonder how it is with more and more and more people, whether...
I don't know. This was the first time that I was really getting ready to try it. So I don't know yet.
I'm sorry.
No, don't worry. I say people wants to run things while other things wants to run. Or actually Andrea Lepecki said that. So I can't control, and I respect conditions and stuff that happen. And I think, yeah, I'm just trying to feel the rhythm, feel the flow, and so unfortunately I can't answer that because I'm doing it alongside the performers, alongside like the István, like how we will build things, like the installation. I'm never coming with a set plan, this is how it will be, this is the measurement. I all the time working from the space, especially from the people that I'm collaborating with, and I don't know. Yeah.
So let me grab back the word. I think that's useful for you also to listen to these echoes and maybe to direct it in a more radical way, or you just make a decision that you want to focus on something else. It's absolutely, it will be your decision. I would like to encourage everyone just go to Lilach and have a discussion with her. She is here with us until the end of the festival, luckily. So just give your impression, or you can even ask the people around, because that was the reason of this 10 days residency, just to get more into your material and share it with us, and we can give an echo about it. And then it's your decision how you will continue. But I was happy that you stayed and you added your own perspective to the topic. And yeah, you can join us by collecting the material and cleaning the space, but you can also leave. And you are warmly welcome at 7 at Eres 9 Vallai Kert, which in the name Kert means garden, but it's not at all a garden, it's like a gallery space. Because István, who made these binoculars, yes, he has a performance with Roland, who just left, the photographer. He created a film and with live music. And it starts at 7, so we should catch the performance as well. And thank you for your time and interest and thoughts.
Thank you all. Thank you. And thank you, Emeshe, Barbara.